take your car, and today I pulled this out, some screw. I pulled this wire out the next day. And it'll probably run for a few days, but after a while, it's not going to run. And it's kind of unpredictable if I'm pulling things out at random when it's going to stop running. And that's essentially what we're doing. When you've got lakes that really have only 10,000 years of evolution to get things coordinated, it's very easy for a system like that to collapse. And in a sense, it already has.
I've heard estimates that not a drop of water leaves the Great Lakes and flows into the St. Lawrence River without having passed through the engines in a hydroelectric plant or a nuclear plant.
Lakes don't have many organisms in them. They're 10,000 years old. They were colonized by the plants and animals that survived glaciation by living in big rivers. So you have in the lakes animals that are really adapted for river life.
Darwin talked about how species expand into new territories in a natural way, and that's called evolution. But when we put them in a box and bring them over and let them loose, that's not evolution. That's just invasion. And you know, as I say, nature can sustain change. In fact, nature is about change. Change is evolution. But what nature can't sustain is instant change or quick, fast change. That's just disruption, and that's what destroys ecosystems. So it's not evolution that's happening around us, it's just wanton destruction.
You ask me what all the toxins are going to do and the way they interact. My response is, you probably can't calculate that, and do you really want to do that experiment?
Some of the highly industrialized harbors around the Great Lakes have been measured to have 500,000 parts per million of PCBs. So that's 50% PCBs. It's highly, highly toxic waste. I mean, putting your hand in it is putting yourself in trouble.
The numbers of E. coli that we see associated with stormwater sometimes can almost be as high as what we see going into a wastewater treatment plant. When we see levels above 20,000 or 100,000 coming out of a stormwater outfall, we need to start looking at the infrastructure and figure out, is there a sanitary line that's feeding sewage directly into this stormwater system? And it's unfortunately more common than we like to think about.
There are pharmaceuticals, including birth control pills, as well as female estrogens that are being discharged out of wastewater treatment plants in the Great Lakes region. We have done some studies on Great Lakes fish, specifically a species called the white perch, in which we've shown that there is gonadal intersex, in other words, partial feminization of the gonad in that particular species. And the levels of the intersex are highest in areas that are contaminated or impacted by wastewater from sewage treatment plants. The First Nations community near the city of Sarnia, in which they've shown that over the past couple of decades there's been an increase in the number of female children born within that First Nations community, and that's generated a good deal of interest on why that might be taking place and whether it could be attributed to exposure to environmental estrogens.
It's easy to really focus on the negative things, and certainly there are things we need to address. But people sometimes, when that's all they hear, they throw up their hands and they say, well, the system's gone to pot, there's nothing we can do about it anymore. And they kind of lose hope for the system. And I think if people see that we have had success in tackling some of these issues, that encourages them that, well, maybe we can address some of the new issues that are arising as well.